I'll present it.
Stand quiet. He's recusing himself.
The application that you had before you, I don't have any for you to see on our screen, but this is a very minor change to the building scope of work. There are some pictures.
We have video.
Oh, do you? Oh, cool. Let's go look at that. Did you want to do that? Awesome. This is 101 East North Street. The building is a landmark, so it has a high rating. The changes that have occurred to that building, it's a turn-of-the-century building. It has a stone skirting that was added, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. Was it there when you were there as a kid? High school?
I think it was.
And that's skirting, and then there's a 1x6, 1x4 treated porch. The columns are original. The roof is original standing seam metal. As you go through the exterior, you can see that there's an outbuilding, that building in the middle. It was probably built about 30 years ago. It's basically a concrete slab with a wood frame. To the left is a tank house that has a half basement. The building is board and batten. The half basement has cracked walls, and it retains water during the wonderful times of rain, but creates a real problem with mosquitoes, and it's a real structural effort to fix that. And there's also termites in the walls that you can see that these are just neighboring buildings if you're living in the neighborhood. It's kind of odd that this building, it's isolated by itself. Originally, it was a large lot in back of, this was a large 200-foot deep lot, and at some point, the property was bought, and the second half of it was divided or subdivided, and there was a building built directly behind it. So this house has a very small setback in the rear, and you'll see that in just a moment. Getting back to the tank house, that's board and batten. There's a V-groove center match roof on top. This structure we propose to remove because of its condition and replace it with a new structure that essentially is the same shape, size, form, and texture. There's some aluminum windows. There's been some modifications. This house to the left that has a fireplace offset, you'll see in your site plan, the property line kind of sets back into their property, and that was because of something that occurred. You can see the skirt here, the service on this side, the window on the left, and there's some siding infill. We are not changing anything on this elevation except where the later siding has been installed. We want to put a door there for direct access to an outdoor court that we're creating. This would be removed, the small tank house.
This was the tank house. Where was the tank?
Well, I call it a tank house. There's no tank.
Oh, so
It's just I call it a soap tank. Where you have
washroom?
Yeah, washroom.
Wash house?
That's what I call it.
Okay.
There's no tank house there.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I might be showing you some of this is the water in the basement. If you look at the walls, you can see excuse me?
I have pictures like that.
Do you have pictures like
Half
that?
basement that was.
You could, if the water would stay a long time, you could turn it into an aquarium or
Yeah.
something. You can see the cracks in the walls. And Kyle said that when they were living there, they tried to coat it and repair it, so it seeps the water in. Let's look at the application directly on this west side. There's some more pictures of modifications of that storage house. Essentially, can you sell it? You'd have to dig out on the outside and build a coating system around the outside.
Well, there's so few of them around.
Well, that one hasn't been used probably in 40 years or so because of the water.
And underneath it.
And underneath it. I'm sure there's no water lock that would prevent the hydrostatic pressure. That's what water
Well, it
is
must have
getting.
had it drained at some point.
I don't know.
Over.
Yeah. This is the shed that is off the back, and the property line is just to the right of that. At this time, the owner's gonna keep that shed there. The addition to the right, this was all added, there was a screen porch on the right. These are the windows that we would want to switch, because the two large windows on the right is where the kitchen will be, and the two windows on the left have the correct elevation for us to have the kitchen back here rather than in the living room. And this is the living room, this is where we might place a fireplace. We want to take this skirt off, the stone skirt, and then restore it back to the pressed metal, which is, parts of it is still behind it. If you crawl into that little hole there, you'll see all the pressed metal skirting that it has, but the water is just running directly into this building, and there's gonna be a lot of damage that's gonna have to be repaired because of a period of time. But these windows will be reworked, repaired, and then just simply moved over. This is this portion back here has been, it was a porch at one time, and there was a screen porch which has been infilled by windows. The objective is to repaint this building using the colors that you see in your packet. It's basically a simple tan and black trim for accent on the sash, as you can see in your packet. See the colors? The brick color would be matching the existing brick that's on the blue at the top. I think
So you're swapping these windows?
these two windows
The two
simply.
big ones are gonna come up
Yeah,
on each
this
side
window
of
is
the
actually gonna
fireplace.
move right there, this window's gonna move back there, in the same position, but just reverse them. Otherwise, the kitchen sink will come across the center of this window. Which I've challenged it, I've tried to do that through the years, it's always a real problem for the owners. It just doesn't look right from the outside. But the modifications that we're proposing, we're gonna leave the roof as it is. It's a standing seam roof that's been patched through the years. We're gonna remove the skirting and expose the pressed metal. But the biggest change would be the fireplace and the changing of the windows on that west side. I think the application outlines the different shapes. I've gone through and explained all the
All
changes.
these chimneys stay?
Yeah, this one here is going away. This one remains. The one in back is the more detailed one, and that actually is used for ventilating or exhausting the attic AC unit. This in here has no function right now.
Questions? Other than this?
There's actually
Do you know when the tank house was built?
probably I would venture to say, I would not, I don't think we know.
But I'm not sure I'd call it a tank house, there is no
No,
tank
it's
in
not.
there.
Smokehouse.
It was almost, I don't know exactly what it was used for. It looks like there was a big tub and they
I bet
started
it's
a
wash
fire.
house.
They use it
A
for
wash
a
house,
wash
basically.
house.
Yeah.
Heated
Had
the,
lawnmower and stuff in there.
heated the water for washing.
Right.
The lot is so narrow and long,
Bringing it out to people.
putting something in front,
5 years ago.
leaving it there, there's very limited amount of real estate left to build, and we looked at trying to repair that structure. You'd start with a new frame entirely, and the foundation is questionable. So, and then the offset with the tank, you'd have to fill in the basement anyway.
Make a new limestone siding on
A wet one,
Limestone.
a wet one. I haven't figured out how to keep those things from leaking once they're cracked.
Okay,
Just put your water in and see,
Okay.
you are gonna fill in underneath where these.
Yes,
where
let's
the
match the same
matching
siding.
material. I think you've done a good job with that.
if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Also,
A second? Richard? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Application approved. Thank you. Thank you. Application 1229, 207 East Edison. Welcome, John Klein.
Andrea's the owner of the property as of about 4 days ago.
Hi, welcome. You're welcome to sit.
Well, she's
do
gonna be
our-
more of a presentation.
Oh, okay.
She's lived in Japan for 20 years and she's
Here.
gonna present.
How's
that.
that? Great, none of us will understand.
Andrea, tell you, basically, she lives in Fredericksburg about 8 to 9 months a year, 3 months of the year she lives in Japan. Is Charlie here?
No, my son's a freshman at Heritage School, and we're going to be here until he graduates, and maybe longer from high school.
Great,
And I have family here that have been in Fredericksburg for a number of years.
great.
Laura.
your sister is Laura Cook.
That's right.
You know Laura Cook and Bill Cook.
And Dale has been looking for years to try to find her a piece of property. And this one came up, and you wanna show your video?
Awesome.
So, you're with,
Just kinda get familiar with it. The rating is low. For some reason, this structure was built in 1997, no permit was taken out. You all looked at it, Historic Review Board looked at it, and it was, we don't know what happened, it's just a real mess up. But it's built over the property line in the setback, and it looks the way it did, and that's the way it was presented to the Historic Review Board. So when we're buying it, we are understanding that there are some encroachments, and that little shed sits at the back of the property. The zoning is C1. Our intent is residential. It is currently being used as a residence as of last Friday. When she took possession of the property, the tenant moved out. I get a little bit about the building. You're gonna be repainting it, but she'll come back to y'all with the colors that she's gonna propose on that building. This is what you do towards the creek. I'm speculating that this property might have been part of that house, and then maybe there was a separate lot, and then it was sold
I
off.
wish Mike was here so I could.
There was a red tile in there at one time.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's red tile, it's been there for a long time, they put a facade on it, to the store.
But the city had good records, I just don't understand how it happened.
Well, our ordinance was not a,
Well, what was done here was approved, because y'all were recommending, because it was low, or maybe it was probably a 4 or a 5, but the problem, the city has had the fact that there was never a permit taken out and the work was done. And, you know,
Todd wasn't here.
there's no setback or anything on this thing.
oh, I was here, I was in high school.
Okay, Brandon, kind of present what we're planning to do. Andrea intends to live on the property and then have a B&B, turning this property into a B&B. Now, Andrea, Brian had some questions earlier. It's a single B&B unit. There's a loft which can never be turned into a sleeping area because there's no egress windows. Go ahead. It says existing cottage, that's all one structure. Now, it's been brought to our attention after Kyle went up there today, and we're not gonna dwell on that too much. The city in all probability would not allow any more building in the setback. And she was proposing to put a shed, lean-to porch, and that's not an issue for y'all to resolve.
Is that going away? Is that whole thing going away, this thing?
No,
Oh.
but we wanted to put a shed on that west side, and when Kyle went over there today, he started saying, oh yeah, by the way, there's been a no-no, we're not gonna contribute to it.
Is this
So this new porch,
Not gonna be.
this new porch,
Yeah, we were
you're not gonna
asking-
do.
We were asking for approval, but as of today, and Brian agrees, we don't want to contribute to the building in the setback. So what we'll probably do is put some trees there.
Just a little bit shade.
The cottage that's to the rear there, that'll be our new B&B unit, it'll be accessible. That existing shed that exists back there is gonna be a storage shed, it's also in the setback. And it's got a concrete slab. The new residence, and is the new house there, you wanna go to the floor plan? And if y'all wanna skip through the stuff, right ahead, it's simple little B&B cottage to the left. And then the house, two-bedroom house. And it's set up to where she can run it as a traditional B&B. When Fredericksburg was all, originally when we got into B&Bs, we were gonna do the traditional German B&B, which was have a home and you rent out a room. And that's what all the rules have been set up for. Through the years, they've become detached. And sometimes now people don't even live on the property and there's 5 B&Bs. So it's essentially a motel in a residential district.
It's just a residential zone, isn't it?
Well, our zoning isn't an issue, it's the fact that it's historic district, it's an historic district.
Yeah, but it's not R,
Yeah,
it's
but
something else.
you can go over town, there's R1s where there's 2 or 3 cottages. Let's not talk about going to,
Yep. Moving on.
go to the model. The style, Andrea's very much into contemporary, and she showed me a lot of great things in Japan. She's not that into historical, so we came up with this transitional style. And it's not contemporary, it's not historic. The best example I can show you of that would be a new dental clinic that we finished about 6 months ago over a mile, where you'd have the lower pitched roofs, composition shingles, stucco, some stone, some siding. This pitch on this one is what, 4 and 12? 4 and 12. Our pitches are a little lower, they're on the drawing, but it's just kind of give an idea of what the concept we're headed toward. It's a non-statement architectural style, it's simple, it intends to blend. And Brandon, you can spin all the way around.
So the covered porch that's attached to the existing would not be built, is that what you said?
I knew about it about an hour ago. Colors in all probability are similar to this, but again, we'll come back to you. We're not gonna make any strong statements. Beiges, stone. Sometimes in order to make the stone look better, we'll do the addition with a darker color. The siding, so the stone pops out. Anything else, Brandon? Go to your elevation where the roof pitches and heights are shown. At this point, we're showing that porch, but the roof pitches are all 3 and 12 and lower. I mean, 3 and 12 and 4 and 12. The big house is 4 and 12. Plates are 9 and 12 feet. Everything is going to be less than what's existing. Do you have any comments, any questions, any thoughts?
Just
It has a low rating. Is this compatible for the neighborhood? I contend it's a non-statement and it shouldn't be conflicting with anything else there.
Well, I have a protection for your vehicles. The parking's uncovered, you're gonna come back to them.
Well, we can only do it covered under one space because of the setback, goes to the site plan. The 25-foot setback prohibits us from that dotted line you see right up above. It's possible to have a covered space there, we would have to come back, it would probably be an arbor structure. We haven't designed it, we don't have anything in the budget for this time.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes, I don't have a question, I have a comment. It looks to me like we're getting ready to approve residence complex rather than residence facility. Now, we may have a lot of these around, I don't know, but this is kind of, at least since I've been on the board, the first time we've been asked to approve of 5 residential location on a particular lot. If that's what we're ready to do, it's fine with me, but I think that we need to understand what we're talking about here as far as our historic reviews.
Right, we had an application, something like this over in your neighborhood, didn't we?
Yeah, and,
4 or 5
built it.
cottages.
Bertie, what are you saying? I mean, the zoning is, we can do just about anything.
Can you show pictures of the neighborhood again?
Is it R1? I thought I heard you say it was R1. Huh?
C1.
Oh,
Well, you can't do anything you want to, but that row of that block is zone C1 all the way back over to,
So this is
mine.
C1?
And in C1, you're allowed to do multiple dwellings based on the size of your tract.
I withdraw all of my comments.
I mean, it can still be a concern, but you are entitled by zoning.
Still a good comment.
Well, we have C1 going all the way to the corner, correct?
Now, this is C1.
Yes.
I think we looked at this thing with, wasn't there a fence on the backside?
There's a fence on the, well, that's Austin right there, right? That's Carl Ritter's place. We made them redo their fence. They put like a Spanish style fence across the adobe. We made it.
I only see one of them straight down the
Is
street.
Carl still on there?
Well, it's only C1 to the edge of this block.
Yes,
This was part of
I
that
don't
lot
know.
to begin with, Stan, went down to mine.
I think so.
That lot was spread out of that original lot.
The other half, the half to the north over here is zone residential.
There was a red tile garage in our street going into my neighborhood, and there was sheep rings all over that house.
And what's on this side? Just nothing?
Joe bus car rings the way over there.
But there's a house or?
There's a house next
That's,
to it
that's the
here.
shingle house across the street.
And it's residents, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just this little section right here.
The C1 starts there, goes back, and then down the street till it hits CBD, which is what, about 2 blocks?
So this is R1 here.
Yes.
Carl, do you have anything behind this property? Did you take a 360?
I have the Metzger's property that they just redid, those houses. They're on this side of Bowie, on the west side. There's a,
Google Maps.
That and what's across the street.
Have you got internet?
And the house that Maggie Wendell lives is in the corner, at the corner of Austin and Edison. If you kept going there to the right, she's at the corner.
I should have paid more attention.
It's the one that's.
Did you have a creek in?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a creek,
it's
it's a real goofy condition.
Yeah, streets.
Street that,
Okay, any questions for John or for Andre?
I think you did a good job on the house being low impact for neighborhood. I think my concern is the big parking lot. I mean, it looks like parking lot. I guess that meets the zoning.
Well, they have the landscape ordinance.
They've gotta have the parking for the units. Is that gonna be granite gravel or is it gonna
Big
be?
granite gravel.
That'll help.
Yeah, so it's not like it's like concrete.
Basically, looking across to this and your scale of buildings, you're right, I think it does work well. I think the impact is gonna be what that's.
It's similar to that house there in the distance, to the right side there. Although that one's probably a 1950s bungalow. They're similar, the hip roofs, that's probably a 4 and 12. We elected to go 3 and 12, just a little lower. The upper roof is a 4 and 12, and then the next one's probably a 1960s or mid-50s traction. There's a 1940s.
Material wise, you're using stone and what was the other? Stucco.
Go back to that.
Primarily stucco and siding with just a few stone accents.
So the siding back here kind of relates back to the building.
Siding here on both wings, and stucco on the main portion of the house, and then the 2 stone accent areas.
If it's commercial, it really doesn't matter.
It's in the
No, I'm
historic
just talking about the
district.
neighborhood.
It's in the historic district. The C1 zoning allows us greater densities.
for commercial property?
Neighborhood services.
Really, probably the zoning we could have used here would have been R5, right? Even R2.
R2 would
R2 would have been fine.
Yeah, R2.
Okay, other questions? Anybody? No questions, can I get a motion to approve? Thank you, Charles.
I'll second.
Adam, second. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thanks. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Next application. Talk about it at all. It's on our agenda, so we can talk about it. The guy's not here to present it, so. No, just,
You heard what she said about that next application?
the next application, there's no one here to represent the property. It is on the agenda, so you can't talk about it unless you have questions.
I had a question of how they would take care of it.
On the diagram,
That's your flash.
Page 41. Who built the doors?
darn, the inside that they're not LEDs, yeah. Thank you, John.
We had to set that.
The egress,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
That's what it was.
Pull them back.
So we have to do like it is right now.
It's almost like what they have to do right now.
Yeah, they have an inset, but it gets inside now. But
He doesn't know anything about that.
currently, yeah, currently.
It's- I don't know how
So, I
they-
mean, really, what we're trying to gain.
Well, they're not here,
by
right?
bringing
No.
it
Right,
out
they're not here.
and-
So we probably should go with this.
But
It's on the agenda, so we don't talk about it.
Oh, sure, you can talk about it, but if you don't wanna take action on it, that's fine.
Right. I don't think we would, not being here, but.
I think it's got its own little set of problems anyway, the way it's being proposed.
Well, and they thought it should be a sign off, and Kyle and I talked about it and decided that it was not, and the guy's mother was furious when we wanted all y'all's numbers, wanted to call all of you. Kyle didn't give your numbers, so.
Thank you, Kyle.
Probably
Tammy
scattered.
didn't give it to him. I would've given it to him, but Tammy didn't.
Just get him Burley's and Burley won't answer.
And
so.
then when he's here to present, if he has to go pick up his kids, so he can't be here to present, so, anyway, none of that's relevant, but if you have any questions, Kyle might be able to answer since he's,
Is it the owner or the renter?
He rents. I mean, he owns both of them. The Havana Reef, and then his mom is Madeline, right next door to.
Maryland.
Maryland's, I'm sorry, Maryland's.
Maryland's.
Right.
He's also got that historic deep going concrete that's gonna be changed.
Oh, okay.
The diamond.
So was it actually like two buildings?
how does this, I mean, those of you with retail experience, why would that keep him from doing a good retail business if he, with that inset door? I think that's,
Like, walk by that every morning.
Well, if he has to have the door open and out, then even if he did it the way he wanted to, he wouldn't gain any usable space with the door to open and inward.
I mean, that thing has to be 36 inches wide. I mean, I'm just,
it is 36 inches long.
so he's got the accessibility right there. It doesn't swing out.
He wants to make it 24, he wants it bigger.
He wants to what?
Wants to make the opening 55 inches wide and move that whole junction over.
But you still have to keep a 36 inch wide door, so he's gonna make a small sidelight to it or what?
The doors will be each,
To get the egress, it doesn't work.
No.
It won't be covered.
Well, it's life safety, I mean,
so can you tell him that so we don't have to see him?
That's fine.
But, you know, I guess that we get back to these traditional facades. If you recall, the Fred's Tool thing, we didn't have enough window light and so forth, so we changed things to increase visibility of these stores. And this facade has a lot of visibility for merchandise, and so many of our applicants want that.
And we can make a motion to combine, because then if we get to make a motion to combine.
No,
And then
okay,
Well,
no,
well, you can, sure, it was just a matter of courtesy, I mean, if, it's up to the board, but you're, I mean, if you can't do it based.
Are there time periods where if we wait till next month, that
Not that I'm aware of, and they called us, contacted us today, right, Kyle and told us they were.
Well, he called Tammy, I
Well,
think, and then,
contacted us.
right, and said he wasn't gonna be
Late
here.
in the game, and then said they weren't gonna be available, so.
Put it on for next time, but.
Well, I mean, the board's asking whether or not they should just go ahead and deny it, or should we give them the courtesy of being here to let them explain, but it,
He's not, I don't
If
think
it's
he's gonna
not gonna
say
be vote
anything that's gonna
compliant.
change our
Well,
mind.
he can't, because it's,
I think historically,
Double
there's
comply.
some, I mean, there's,
Is what he wants to do in compliance with code?
Not with the doors, no.
Oh,
What he wants to put in, because they won't meet egress.
well, let's,
in ADA.
then we don't need to deny it, cause he can't do what he wants to do, so. Don't bring it back to
See,
us
right now, he's
until
not
it's
compliant
in
because
code.
of the swing in, right?
Right.
Okay,
So he makes a change, he's gotta swing them out, and he can't swing it into the sidewalk.
Right. I mean, it's gonna have to stay, back.
Stay where it is.
It stays where it's at. So it seems to me like you almost need to deal with it before it gets here, because it's really,
Right.
functionally, it's not a really important thing for
Right.
us to look at.
what are you
And
gonna say?
plus, I'm always one for going ahead and making a bright line and not rather than keeping it iffy,
Yeah,
about putting it on next agenda if he had specifically requested.
Yeah.
That kind
I
of
think it's got other problems.
that's what you can say about his sugar.
no, I said, well, in order to get the two doors in there, he's gonna have to get into the show window. And then he'll have two doors that he could set in that he could open up, but there's still not if one of them's open, there's still not a fix.
I'll make a motion to deny based on the architectural integrity.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I prefer to wait until they're present to do that. I think giving them feedback that I think we're all prepared, most of us are prepared to vote against it, that we wouldn't go along with it, but I do think giving them the consideration.
The motion dies for lack of a second, so, but you will make sure that whatever he's applying is in code, we don't wanna look at it if it's,
And he had, when he brought these other drawings in, he said if it's not gonna pass, he's okay with that. He just wanted to have two doors that look like it's the front of his mom's store.
okay,
Two different buildings,
Right.
two different styles.
okay. Anything else on that? Okay, moving on to item number 7 on our agenda, 306, South Orange. This lady's requesting to have her house added to the historic district, correct?
Is this the first time we've had that?
And can we just vote and say, yeah, you want me in it, you're in it?
Yeah, it's
No.
a recommendation.
No,
Oh,
it'll
we
need-
recommend the council that they say, okay.
No, it'll go to the planning and zoning commission first,
Oh.
because it'll actually be a zoning district
Oh, right.
change. And then you make a recommendation to them, they make a recommendation to the council. and they'll-
Video.
And the board can direct us to initiate that process. She doesn't have to do that. She just sent a letter saying that, she would like to have some, clarity. She's not planning on doing anything, she's not planning on changing anything. She obviously is very proud of her yard, and what she has. It's a low-rated structure, but it goes right down.
Right down the middle of the house.
I was pumped with this thing.
He came in and said, why, I want to know what district I'm in, I'm half in, half out. And I said, well, I don't
There's
think
nothing
it's
to do with anything else in the
Is it
neighborhood.
that mega house that's going across the street?
That's
I
right.
know, there's something to do with it.
No, it's a video.
I know that, I just wondered if that's.
She didn't say that, but I suppose it
Isn't
is.
that's the location, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's right.
Basically.
But what would that matter?
Well, I mean, because I'm looking at the architectural integrity of it. You know,
Well, it ought to be out or in, one or the other is the point. If you want to take it out, it's fine.
But it's not in the district now.
Yeah.
It's half in and half out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See,
I
Stan-
missed
Look at
that.
the map.
I missed that.
You look at the map.
Did you look at your packet before you came?
Yes, I did, but and the last item seemed to kind of slip by me.
See, the border of the, so I think we should make most of it.
Yeah, it's kind of a large map, but if you.
But it being
Yeah, hard to figure out why.
all of her neighbors are in it.
We would just suggest going around her property and continuing on.
So I need a motion to that effect.
I would move to that effect, if the planning is on the
That's the Busby
backyard.
house.
So, we have a motion and a second to recommend that that the line of the historic district go around, so that this is in the district, just go around this piece of property to include her in the district. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And we have other properties that are like that.
Properties, but not the actual structure.
Okay, we have one more thing. Demolition by neglect. Item 8. Shed.
Take that today?
See what?
Take that today?
Yes.
Oh, a lot of.
Is it on your place?
I'm in with Richard, it's, on Acorn Road.
Oh, it's right
But
there.
I drove her car to work today and I never had the car there.
Okay, do we know who owns the property?
Sure.
Listed by Mary Holland.
The corner of the property near the for sale.
Yeah.
That's why it's the looks like.
So the question is, do we want to send a letter for demolition by neglect, right? Is that the question we're answering?
Well, you had asked Pat, or us to ask Pat, to clarify whether or not a structure such as this, an accessory type structure would be considered, something that we could include in our determination of demolition plan. And that's the letter that Pat has given you here on page 46, there's a little bit of clarification here. She's referring to it as an appurtenance, and it seems like historically we've looked at accessory buildings, particularly water tower, water tanks and those kinds of things as being critical to the historical context of the site. I don't think there's any question that the main building is the primary focus of the site, but do we feel like, or does the board feel like these improvements are important to the historical integrity of the building and the site? And if they are, then yes, then we would suggest that you consider sending them.
Do we have the main picture in the notice? Or is this on?
There's also
The house in front.
there's a tank house, so it's.
Yeah, the red
Is it rated? Is it rated?
The building itself?
It's right there. in the
Yeah,
corner
it's-
of the district.
I'm sure it's a.
On the
It's a
corner?
high.
Main?
And
On
it
Main?
needs a
Main
little
Faces on the
attention too.
main, next door to you.
I've noticed some of the rotting around the built-in gutters that they have on the facade.
The building itself. It's in, he's in good care. Just looking at it from the outside.
So do we wanna do
Windows
a
are
letter?
always open.
Why don't you guys buy it? Right next
You
to
don't
the
know.
house.
And then what do you have?
Stimulus.
Red air problems.
Stimulus.
Okay, so, we need a,
I'm 616, so it's
That's
been,
by
I think it's
618.
620 or 618.
It's right next door.
This little shed here, is that like in the easement too? The whole thing's in the setback or?
Yes, it is.
It's right there by.
That's, the mesquite tree is actually on the street side, and that's
So
looking
this little
toward
guy
Main
right
Street.
here is,
That's looking toward Main Street, that's next to me.
That's right here.
There's the, I mean, you can see where you
Okay.
parked, I mean, it's basically right on the
Neat.
street.
the house
Neat
in
building.
front is rated high.
Right.
yeah.
So if you do a letter and if there's, is there demolition by neglect issues on,
There's not on the house.
You probably could
house.
warrant a letter as well.
Needs to be prepared each.
And there's a tank house just over the top of that white car, that the back side's all rotted out on.
That's one. Right.
And that's, I mean, that's the cool structure,
anybody want to see?
as far as, kind of unique. In the barn store, too.
And it's CBD, is that what it sounds?
No, I think this is C2.
C2.
Are you C2? Okay, we need a motion to do demolition by neglect letter. I ain't signed it without all y'all behind me.
Do you actually have to sign those, you do?
Yes.
I didn't know.
I'll make.
Second.
It appears that we may have waited too long to
Yes.
keep it from being developed.
Yes.
demolish.
The question's gonna come back, what do I do to it?
What kind of work can they do to it to
But
make
if-
it look authentic?
But if the house
The house
is,
itself
if there's a
is
problem with the
archaic.
house, we could do a letter for the whole property.
It should be.
Well, but typically we'll cite what we want them to correct, just to give them some direction, so we would, we would suggest including whatever you feel is appropriate.
Would it be,
Including the
Is this
accessory building,
This is inside of the property, right?
right?
would it be worthwhile to have Kyle table this one more time and have Kyle take video of the actual building itself up front, where everyone can see the gutters and the windows and paint?
No, we take John's word for it, I think. You and Richard think it's be
As long as you and
good enough
I
for
might
me.
What we could do is we could still take the photographs and maybe run it by, Sharon as the chair, and when we prepare the list.
Yeah.
And if you had some question then, perhaps we could bring it back, or otherwise we could send it based on that.
What kind of repairs could they do to it that would cause it to stay there? Have we talked about that, or are we just talking about demolishing the place?
Cause that would
It's
be,
probably to the point where they either need to repair it or ask for a permit to dismantle it.
cause it's gonna fall.
But just letting it get worse is not.
It'll fall onto your car.
So we have a motion and a second to do a letter for demolition by.
Well, I have a question. If the property is rated high, that's a high rated structure, you can't demo it.
Thing is, I think that my memo says too, that each structure has the ability, if it comes to an issue of demolition. So unless there's a rating on that drawing, if they were gonna alter it, then you would have the jurisdiction on the alterations. But demolition, I don't see in the ordinance where
So the structure is at.
'Cause the
each
barn's
structure,
not
as
rated.
the
it adds
site.
to each structure, yeah,
Doesn't it normally address the primary building?
right.
And we've been dealing with ancillary buildings just like today.
Well, you do, you have that authority when it comes to altering them or that kind of thing,
Mhm.
but I just didn't see where it said that demolition.
And we don't have any accessory buildings rated.
Didn't y'all go back before I was on the board over on, East Austin and make them repair that tank house over there? Kind of behind the gallery building?
The kind of property.
Yeah, the Kyle
No, look.
property. Yeah. It wasn't,
The main structure, we made that.
I thought y'all made them work on the tank house over
We
there.
had them building.
But we probably-
before, so
We probably
did.
did,
Yeah.
we probably
But-
did tell them.
He's saying like before he was on the board that we did something at the tank house. I don't remember.
I think we covered the whole thing, because it was all going south
Yeah, I think
or north or
Because they removed one of the outbuildings before we got the letter to them. I can't remember what it was. But,
The barn and burn.
Yeah, that was the.
probably.
Anyway.
Okay, so what are we doing? Okay, we have a motion and a second to send a letter, demolition, object.
But we have a question about whether we can do that.
Yeah, just I would send a letter, because if they come and talk to y'all about what they can do, I mean, that's a big thing.
So we could, so Kyle's just gonna make a listing of what needs to be done?
I mean, I think there's things to justify the letter on the building itself, but.
I mean, the roof needs to be attached again, so they can go off.
Okay, so all in favor of the letter, the motion, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay.
I think I need to look at that more and see more of the whole property. Would distinguish between the two. I may be prejudiced one way or another here.
Right now, she's gonna address that as the primary purpose of the letter.
Is that what we said?
I
I thought we said
The
the
whole
entire property,
With,
because,
Based off of what you look at.
yeah, and what they take
Stand
pictures
corrected.
of it,
Okay.
and then.
That's how I understood the
Letter,
motion.
Because the other structure is as bad as that, the one we call.
The tank house.
Yeah.
okay,
You need to look at
motion
it on the way
passed.
home.
I need to look at it,
They
but
repainted
I'll have to
that
be
porch
May right now.
last year, or year before last, I think, on
That's the last item on our agenda. Does anybody have anything else? If not, I need a motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Amen. Thank you.
You're coming along great on that job on
So what's so wrong with that property? Which one? The one that they were just doing the demo or demolition rights? Like the multitude of problems? Yeah, I mean, apparently, I haven't gone by and seen. I'll need to go by and check it out myself.